Fluency Guide. Welcome to another live video here on YouTube. This will actually be my final video for this year. So I thought I would talk about actually the first thing, really the most important thing for when you're having everyday communication, everyday conversations with people. It could be meeting someone like a clerk at a store, or just walking by random people as you see them and saying hello to them, or any other situation. But again, this is called This Can Make or Break Fluent Communication. I'll begin with a quick story about something that happened recently. Oh, George, nice to see you there. Gansham, nice to see you there too. It looks like you got your name changed back, I guess. Good morning over there. All right, so we're going to talk about a little bit of kind of psychology. I almost said philosophy there. Oh, look at that, Nils over there. Greets from Wisconsin. Nice to see you there. Whoa, Brett is there. Nice to see you. Hello. Nice to see you from Indonesia. Well, we got people from all over the place. Happy day today. Let me know what your name is. I can't read the Korean, but let me know. Anyway, so today we're going to talk about an interesting psychological thing that happens with communication, and this is how your expectations determine whether you can understand what other people are saying. So I'll go back and make sure I check comments as usual. If you have questions, let me know, but I want to get through just talking about this basic idea first and give you some tips about how you can have better communication with people. It's actually very simple to do this if you start things the right way. So I was at it was a store here in Nagasaki with a friend of mine a few days ago. He was shopping for a Christmas present, or maybe it was a birthday present for his wife. And we were in a store, and he had told me a story while we were shopping about him like not really enjoying shopping very much. But part of the reason was, so again, we're in Japan. He and I are both foreigners. He's from New Zealand. I'm from the United States. But he was telling me that he went to a store and he was trying to explain to a woman, at just like a clerk, a staff member at the store. This is a different store, not the one we went to. He was just telling me this story. But he explained how when he was trying to explain to her something and he couldn't explain it very well, like right from the beginning, the conversation, we say it got off on the wrong foot, or it didn't start off well. I'll put this phrase up here for you. To start on the right foot. And this just means when you begin something, to start off on the right foot, like you start off with a good relationship or a good feeling, something like that. So anyway, because he had gotten into this conversation, he was just basically asking this lady some things. He wanted to know about store credit. So store credit, and this is just a very simple general shopping term for you. When you go to a store and you buy something, especially clothes, and then you maybe give it to someone or you bring it back, usually if you have a receipt, you can get money back for that thing. So the store will give you a refund. That just means getting your money back. But you can also have a situation where the store does not allow refunds, but they will give you store credit. This means that they'll allow you to actually just get something different for the equivalent amount of money. So if you buy a shirt and then you try to get, maybe you don't like the shirt, you take it back, they won't give you money, but they'll let you pick a different thing, like a hat or something. So he was explaining to me he had gone to a different store and he had had some trouble. He was saying the right words, but he just couldn't connect. He couldn't help this woman understand what he was saying. And I know this guy very well. He knows actually a lot of Japanese, but his pronunciation is not very good. It's okay. It's like pretty good, but you can hear an obvious accent, and because he gets like noticeably a bit more, or I guess a bit less confident as soon as he starts speaking Japanese. You can tell just like his body language, his intonation, the way he's expressing things, and you can tell a general a sense that like a Japanese person listening would feel, okay, this person doesn't feel confident about using Japanese. Now, this is an English speaker, a native English speaker speaking Japanese. That's the example, but it's the same anywhere. Now, what's interesting is that his vocabulary was correct. So he was trying to explain like, how can I get like a refund if I want to get my money back or whatever? Is that possible? But the same thing happened on this occasion too. So just so I'm clear, he was telling me a story about a previous time he went shopping, and then the same thing happened again. So I'm kind of standing there, I'm looking at the other clothes in this store, and this woman comes up. She's just a Japanese like shop clerk, and she's asking some questions and just saying hello, and he's trying to explain the same thing to her. And again, like she doesn't quite understand what he's saying. She's just like, it's almost like she basically didn't assume he could speak very well, and so she didn't think that that he would say what he was trying to say. And so this is an interesting thing about psychology that maybe you've noticed in your own life, and the weird thing is that you can use the correct vocabulary, but if you feel or seem less confident or your pronunciation is not very good, then that will change the impression the other person has of you, and that will change what they think you can do or what you can say. So if let's say I walk into like a Japanese store or something, and the same thing would be true in English, it would be true in any language, but I go into a Japanese store and I feel I'm like physically kind of a little bit nervous. You can see it in my body language, and my pronunciation maybe I'm like feeling a little bit shy to say konnichiwa. So I say konnichiwa to people, and this is incorrect pronunciation. So if I say that, I walk up to a clerk, I'm a little bit shy, a little bit nervous. You can see it in my body language, you hear it in my voice, and I'm using the incorrect pronunciation. They will assume I can't speak very well. So that will actually change the way they communicate with me, and it will stop them from hearing things. They will just assume I can't like say what I'm talking about. So I had this problem when I came to Japan as well. When I would say like explaining why I'm here, I'd say, I want to like learn about traditional Japanese inns, and I would explain that to people, and they would be like, I would have to say that thing 4 or 5 times and then try to explain it even with my bad Japanese, and they still couldn't understand what I was saying because they didn't assume, they guessed or they assumed that I didn't know what I was talking about, or that I couldn't be talking about that. And so again, this is an interesting thing about psychology, and so we can use this in the opposite way by having, if you notice, like I change my posture. Instead of like kind of being closed off like this, I want to be open. Even if I'm not so confident about my language, I should be more physically open like this. I really want to be trying my best to begin the conversation. It's the beginning that can make or break that fluent communication. So if I start the conversation or the meeting, whatever, I'm meeting someone at an office or I'm meeting someone at a store, if I begin that way with the open communication, open body posture, good pronunciation, even if I just say one word correctly, that will set the tone, That will set the tone for their impression of me, and also whether they can hear me or not, and also how they will respond to me. So if I go into some place, like a Japanese store as an example, and I'm hunched over, to be hunched over, remember that your communication is not just the words you use. It's also your tone, it's your body language, and pronunciation is a big part of that as well. So I'm always telling people, yes, grammar is the most important thing you need to know because you need to speak correctly. But as far as actual communication, when humans are communicating with each other, it's more than just the words that you're using. And the interesting thing is that if you imagine a conversation, any kind of conversation, even if it's just a quick conversation, maybe you're out walking your dog and you see another person just in your neighborhood or something, like you live in an English-speaking, I don't know, town or country or something like that, or just you meet another English speaker. If you think about the conversation, however long, it could be a minute long, or it could be 10 seconds, or it could be an hour. The beginning of that sets the tone for the whole rest of the conversation. So if I'm feeling unconfident, or I'm not able to even just pronounce the first greeting correctly, I'm unsure of myself. You can physically see it in my body that I'm kind of closed off. I'm feeling a little bit shy. And I recognize this about myself even when I first came to Japan. So I would be more like a little bit nervous with people. Now I'm just like, I stand around and I actually project to people that I speak Japanese without me saying anything. So I'm like physically open to people speaking to me, and people actually respond to that. Isn't that interesting? So this is not a thing about like language learning specifically, but it's an important part of communication generally. So even in your native language, the same rules would apply. If I'm an English speaker, native English speaker, fluent English speaker, but I have a general kind of shy, closed off body posture, or like I'm sitting down, or I'm crossing my arms in front of myself like this. And there are lots of little things like that tell people that I don't want to speak. So like, please don't try to speak with me, I'm a little bit shy. So I project the opposite. I want to show people, hey, and they don't know if I'm fluent or not. But what's interesting is that now in Japan, more people will walk up and just start speaking to me about whatever. And they will assume I understand and can speak Japanese. Isn't that interesting? They don't know. I didn't tell them. They don't know who I am. I'm just a stranger. Like a person will walk up to me and ask me questions about, like I remember one time an old Japanese lady just walked up to me and asked me about the train schedule. So I'm just standing there, like looking around waiting for the train, and she walks up and asks me. There were other Japanese people standing at the train station, but she asked me, and it's just because I was projecting that kind of feeling. So how do we start this? This is the thing I want to focus on in this video, about having really good greetings that are something you can easily, you can practice this, but it's really more about like the kind of setting the tone of the conversation for regular greetings. And I want to keep this very simple, because this is, again, something you can use anytime when you're greeting people. But it's very important. Like when I walk into a store, I want to greet people and project that confidence to them so that they don't feel nervous. It's the same thing when I get into a taxi. Now, taxis, when I first came to Japan, taxis frightened me. So I would imagine I'm getting into a taxi and I have to talk with the driver, but I couldn't speak Japanese very well, so I didn't take any taxis. But now I get into taxis, and the opposite problem is that drivers might be nervous about me, about whether they can communicate with me or not. So when I get into a taxi, I'm very like open and friendly. I give a big konnichiwa, and I can start speaking with people, and I want to make them feel comfortable and confident, and then they start having all kinds of, they tell me lots of interesting stories about, their personal lives or whatever. So now it's a completely different thing for me being in a taxi when I came to Japan versus now. And it's just because I start with like a nice greeting and let them know, hey, I'm someone you can communicate with. I'm being open and I want to communicate with that. So as an example, just something very simple you can begin with, even in a casual situation or a professional situation. Instead of saying good morning or good afternoon, you can just say morning or afternoon. So this is a very simple way to show that you are a little bit more fluent, a little bit more natural. You just say morning, morning. Very easy, very simple. nice and easy to say. I know this might seem obvious to people. You certainly can say good morning to people, good morning. But morning sounds a lot more casual, conversational, and friendly, and it makes you seem like you know the language a lot better. All right? Remember, what we're trying to do, it doesn't matter how good your language ability really is. It's probably better than you think, but the tone that we set right at the beginning of meeting someone, right when we begin speaking, we want to control that, and we want to set the tone for that meeting. So when I go into a store, in me, like speaking Japanese the way I normally would, I would go into a store and I want to greet people first before they say anything to me. So regular Japanese store, you have people kind of walking around. They're like, irashaimase, like welcome, But I'm like, konnichiwa. I walk in, I'm letting them know that I'm confident, that I have good pronunciation, and that I'm able to speak. All right? So my body language is open, like, hey, let's talk. It's okay. And then from there, I can begin talking about more things. But a lot of this, the greeting is a lot about making the other person feel comfortable. Okay? Especially because they might assume you can't speak very well. So before you meet someone, let's say like someone just sees me walking into a store. Even before I say anything, I want to be projecting confidence and that I am like happy to be here and I know what I'm doing. All right. So if I walk into a store and I'm kind of looking around like that and feeling a little bit nervous, they are going to assume either I'm trying to steal something or that I probably can't speak very well. And if I do that, then they won't try to help me and they will be a bit more nervous because they don't want to embarrass me either if I can't speak. So if a shop clerk comes up to me and they start just speaking some Japanese and I can't understand what they're saying, then like I'm going to feel bad about that. They are going to feel bad about that. Okay? So again, a very simple way we can do this. We can just begin a greeting with people, whether it's in the office, something. Professionally, you can say good morning. It's okay. Good morning. Good morning. But you hear how the pronunciation is a little bit different. It's not good morning. It's good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. We're really trying to blend this together, make it sound natural. And this is, again, something very simple that you can practice even just by yourself. But I would also pay attention to this if you see people in your everyday life, especially more confident people, they want to be starting the conversation or that situation, that speaking situation, right from the beginning, right from that first word, even before you say anything. You want to be projecting confidence and showing that you are someone who can speak, okay? So remember, just like I explained before, so my friend, from the very beginning, he's looking a little bit unconfident. His pronunciation is a little bit incorrect. It's pretty good, but you can tell he's a foreigner. And because he's saying that right from the beginning, the person listening, they actually assume like, I don't think he's talking about, it's like there's like a switch in the brain that happens where people can't understand you as well because they just assume you don't know certain vocabulary because you don't speak well. But you can switch this, you can do the opposite and help the other person understand you better by you actually just projecting confidence. So I know people talk about pronunciation and saying good pronunciation is important, but I really want you to understand why this is, especially from the beginning of the conversation. Because you could imagine, like let's say I have two ways of beginning the conversation, and then after that, I could say exactly the same thing. So the first part, so number one and number two over here. Number one, I'm not very confident. You can see it in my body language. I'm closed off. Maybe I'm covering myself or crossing my hands over my body or something like that. Feeling, kind of like my shoulders are up like this. I'm generally projecting a lack of confidence. And so I say something and maybe my pronunciation isn't very good. So that's the first thing I say. And then the second one, I come in and then really good pronunciation, just very good relaxing. I don't need to say a lot. It's the greeting itself that lets people know, hey, this is someone who can communicate. And so I could have one or number two here and then still have the exact same thing for the rest of the conversation. Even if I pronounce something badly for the rest of the conversation, people will hear it more easily if the first thing I say is accurate, is confident, is delivered well. Does that make sense? So if you're worried about your pronunciation, it's okay. It's understandable. We want to be able to pronounce things well and to express ourselves clearly. But the kind of big tip, the major thing here is that you should focus your attention on delivering the greeting. The first thing you say, that should be where like 90% of your effort is in. So right when you greet someone, nice and friendly, hello. Or how are you? Morning, afternoon. And so when you're greeting someone, not only the words that you're using, but your body language, and are you projecting confidence and feeling that kind of warmth or welcoming feeling to the other person. Because again, you could say two different things or express them differently, and then the rest of the conversation could be exactly the same. But the greeting is actually what determines how well the rest of the conversation goes. I could say the exact same thing, and I know I've kind of tested this before. Like if I walk up and ask people things, so I could walk around in a Japanese department store and talk to different people, and the way I behave with them, even if I'm talking about basically the same thing, that will change the whole conversation. But if I speak well, and again, this is not about like trying to speak for a long time or trying to remember some phrases or something. The point is just a very simple greeting that communicates that you are there to have a conversation with that person. So that's how fluent communication, the foundation of that begins with the greeting, the first thing you say to that person. And it might not even be hello. So I might walk up to someone and like, let's say I'm looking for shirts. And so I say, oh, like, do you have this in green or do you have this in blue? And if I say that, so this is me like being an English speaker, I walk into a store. I mean, typically you should say hello or something first. But after that, hello, do you have this in green? Or maybe that's a bad example because this is green. Do you have this in yellow? Do you have this in yellow? Or I could just say, have this in yellow? Have this in yellow? So you can even prepare that, and this is something very simple you can do before you get into that situation. So this will make you feel more confident. You walk in, you don't know, maybe you don't have a reason why you're there or you're just shopping or something. But if you want to take control of the situation, to set the tone, and that will help you just have a much better conversation, even if the pronunciation here is not so good. So don't worry about all of your pronunciation, or maybe you don't say a word correctly. The person will be much easier. It will be much easier for that person to understand you if your greeting is good. If the first thing you say, and you can practice that or think about what you want to say before you get into that situation, because you can control that. So rather than the person controlling your situation, you control that situation, you control that speaking environment yourself. Does this make sense? All right. So whatever you want to say here, and you can ask, I'll look at comments now, and if people have any questions about specific communication situations. So if you're meeting people at work or you're going shopping, those are kind of obvious ones where you would meet other people. Or if you were maybe at a train station and you need help with something, there are lots of times when you might need that. But if you have specific things you'd like help maybe creating a greeting for, or if you think maybe there was a time you had a chance to speak, but you don't feel like you did it very well, you can ask me a question about that and I can help you do it. But the most important thing, the real point of this video, is that this can make or break, and to make or break something, to make or break. And this is a really great English expression where you're talking about this one thing, if you do it well, could lead to success. If you do it badly, it could lead to failure or problems or something like that. So to make it, like make it successful, or to break it, to end up destroying that thing. So the greeting, the first thing you say, the tone that you have, and again, it's not just your words, it's your body posture as well. So are you walking in? Are you confident? And again, even if you're not 100% confident about your ability to speak, you can be 100% confident about this because it's very simple. You can easily just begin a conversation with hello or something like that. So I will meet Japanese people sometimes and like I will hear them say like hello, hello. So hello, hello. So a lot of like Japanese it'll be like hado, like hado, instead of hello. And so it's interesting, whenever I hear that, I assume that person's speaking is not going to be very good. Just by this one word, one sound pronounced incorrectly. So instead of hello, and I explain this to Japanese people, it's better to say hello, not hado, hello, hello. So the very first thing, especially little kids, I will teach them this. When they say, hado, hado, I say, no, hello, hello. Hello. And then even this sound is in Japanese, but a lot of them pronounce it hado, hado. So again, the very first thing you do with that greeting, that sets the tone for the communication, even if you make a mistake here, okay? It's okay. They will not even notice your mistakes if the beginning is good. So don't worry about all this. Worry about this here, and really, I don't mean worry like, oh, no worry. I mean, just focus on that. Think about this thing. So when you go into a store, imagine it like a mission. I'm going to walk in. I'm going to project myself to be confident. Hello. 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 Afternoon. Morning. Very simple, okay? So I can give you some more greetings if you have more questions about different situations. I'll go back and look at comments now, but hopefully this makes sense. The idea is not to worry about your pronunciation in general. It's really just to give yourself something very short, very simple, just to set the tone, okay? So try this when you're out walking around, talking to people, whatever. Just begin with a nice hello. You control the situation. Don't wait for them to, a person walks up to you. I walk into a convenience store or whatever. I'm just like, konnichiwa, konnichiwa, konnichiwa. So I'm making it clear I can pronounce the language properly, and they will assume, I think we talked about this, what is an assumption in the previous video, but people will assume I can actually communicate because I'm pronouncing that first word correctly. So I could mispronounce something later, but it won't be a big deal. They will not really be thinking about that so much because even native speakers will mispronounce things or say whatever, have kind of making mistakes in grammar or pronunciation. It does happen. But in general, because of the assumption, people have the beginning of the conversation where people think, oh, this person can speak. They are judging you right from the beginning, even before you say anything, by how you look, okay? So you don't need to you could look good or whatever, but the more important thing is, do you feel relaxed and confident? And so don't worry about this. Don't think, oh my God, I don't know how to pronounce this, or I don't know how to say these words over here. Just focus on this and you will be forgiven a lot. That will help people. They will relax also, and it will be much easier for you to have a really great conversation with them, even if you make mistakes. Okay, so don't worry about that. Pointer, start the conversation off right, on the right foot. You want to make or break that conversation with what you do up here. All right, let me go back and look at any questions, comments people had. Nice to see everybody here, though. From Indonesia, let's see. Happy day. Dran says, what's up? Grazzy, hello. Marcelo, Mary, let's see here. GM from Osaka, nice to see you there. Jana says hello. This is Jana, originally from the Czech Republic, living in the U.S. Is that Missouri, I'm guessing? Thank you for your teaching videos, my pleasure. Yes, I'm Korean, a beginner at learning English. Let's see. Well, your Korean or your English must be pretty good if you're watching my videos. Let me know what your name is so I can address you properly if you want me to. And Grazler says, what can I do to have an accent like you? If you want to sound like me specifically, or also just be able to understand natives more easily, people will probably know this if they've been in the chat for a while or if they've been watching my videos. Frederick, Frederick. Get this app. It's in the link in the description below this video. You can actually hear me pronounce over 2,000 words and sentences, and I will teach you how to pronounce the app or how to pronounce the language. And understand native speakers. You will actually really teach yourself to do it, but you can hear me doing this. And it's the first app in the world that will let you learn English as a first language, so you teach yourself pronunciation and listening and grammar and vocabulary the same way natives are learning it. All right? So if you'd like to have an accent like me, sound like me, then just get that. All right, let's see. What do we go through? All right. All right, Tom says, good morning, teacher. Have a great day. Yeah, you too. Antonio, nice to see you there. How are you? I'm doing fine. Jay Kim says, good morning. It's freezing out here. Actually, it's a little bit cold here in Japan, too. We've got some snow today in Nagasaki. It's not snowing right now, but it was snowing. Maybe we will have a white Christmas. Tom says, a sensei, nice to see you there. Hassan says, hello. In Korea, teacher from French Guiana, best teacher I've seen. I've learned English, Portuguese, Sarantongo, if I'm pronouncing that correctly. Now applying your method advice is to learn French. You are amazing. Glad to hear it. Yes, what I'm teaching people, you should be learning any language as a first language. That's the real secret to fluency, but everybody ignores this because they think it's not possible to do it. And truthfully, it is a little bit difficult without a teacher, but you have the internet to teach you. But people just join programs like Frederick or Fluent for Life that actually let them to do, allow them to do that much easier, much more easily, I should say. C says, what's up? WhatsApp. You mean what's up? Everything's going well. My name is Marco. Again, Jim says, I agree. When we see foreign people, we can recognize them easily and where they come from by listening to their articulation. Set the tone, attract attention. Yes. So Naru says, good morning from Korea. Look at that. Lots of people from Korea. Right here. Actually, it should be early. What time is it there? Maybe like 9 o'clock? Gansham, you didn't wear a sweater. I think in Japan, you don't freeze. Well, I have the heater on, and I prefer not to, have a sweater or something. I just, like to be nice and relaxed. That's why I don't wear a suit and a tie when I teach, because it's just more comfortable and easy for me. Can I say learning topic more deeper? You mean deeper, D-E-E-P-E-R, deeper? Also part of breaking fluent in communication. Yes, so for a video like this, I really want to help people just learn something and do something simple that they can start using immediately in their conversations today. So yes, the more you learn the language itself, the more you confidently understand the language, that's what will help you with like the rest of the conversation here. But just for beginning a conversation, you can change the whole conversation just by how you begin it. And that's really the point of this. It's a basic idea of leverage where we can take like just a small point of leverage and really affect the whole conversation just with one or two words, with our body language, with our intonation, pronunciation right at the beginning of that conversation with someone. So yeah, of course, the deeper you learn the language, the more confident you feel about it because you understand the language very well, the more fluently you will communicate. This is what we teach actually in Fluent for Life. All right, let's see. Idelido, hello teacher, I'm Brazil. You're from Brazil, I'm guessing. Please, can I study English with you? Thank you. Well, you're studying with me right now. You're learning. Gansham says, my problem is whenever I go to the store, ladies at the main counter, I'm not afraid to the ladies, but I avoid them sometimes, not daily. Why? Just say hello. Make them feel better. Say, you look nice today. Or nice weather today. Or, just something where I like to put other people at ease, because a lot of people, maybe they're even working at a store or something like that. Maybe they're not, so outgoing or friendly or whatever. And it's nice when other people can make them feel more comfortable. So even if I can't, I could go to a store in Korea and not speak any Korean. I could maybe say one thing, but just to walk around I think hello is like annyeonghaseyo or something like that. I don't know how to pronounce it correctly, or accurately. 안녕하세요, when I hear that. But if I'm saying that to people, if I know what that is, even if I don't speak Korean, I could just be a foreigner and say that, and they would be, oh, like this person is making an effort to communicate with me. So I could say hello, and maybe they walk up to me and I say, oh, I'm sorry, I don't speak Korean. But they might think like, oh, like he made an effort to say something to me in Korean. Danny says, hey, Drew, very interesting point. I'm an English teacher here in Brazil. I always need to be aware to help my shy students to set the tone. Otherwise, they will be always insecure. Yes. So the two things you can do as a teacher, number one is try to explain more about how to make the language easier for people, just everyday communication with information like this. But also the second thing, and really the deeper and more important thing for their whole communication life, is to help them understand the language like a native speaker. Because if you feel confident, like truly 100% confident about this, the greeting part is really easy. Because it's just, oh, hello, let's get into the conversation. Let's talk about whatever we're talking about. So now in Japan, when I walk around, I have, interesting conversations with people about all kinds of things. And I've, spoken with company presidents or politicians or just everyday people on the street, because I feel confident that I know the language very well. And I'm also able to just begin the conversation. Usually I find something interesting about the person or notice something about them. Whatever. Like one thing I try to do when I see like people with little kids, I will try to talk with the kids also. I will say like, oh, hello, practice your English, And of course we got a traffic, an ambulance or whatever. All right, Tom says lots of people from Brazil here. Yeah, we do. Yeah, got lots of fans in Brazil. Lots of English learners over there. Raimundo Fantastico says, is perfect pronunciation necessary? This is something we should all ask ourselves. Well, the point is not like, when I talk about perfect pronunciation, it's more, am I communicating that I'm confident about my ability to speak? So I want to tell other people, even very simply, because there are different ways of pronouncing something. And so when I talk about like perfect pronunciation, it's more like appropriate pronunciation that shows I can actually speak. So lots of Japanese people, like a foreigner comes to Japan and they say Tokyo. So in America, like we say like, oh, like, did you go to Tokyo? But Japanese people know you're a foreigner if you say that, because the correct pronunciation is like Tokyo. It's like two sounds, not three. And so something like that, like when you don't have to have like perfect pronunciation, because each person will pronounce the word a little bit differently. Each person has their own, mouth shape, and they're going to change the sound of the word a little bit, or they will have a slightly different tone. But the point is, the difference between someone who can speak well and someone who's probably not very confident about their language. So when a foreigner walks into a Japanese store and says Tokyo, like, we know that person is a foreigner because they don't know how to pronounce the name of the city correctly. And they're probably not going to be able to speak Japanese. But if they say like, Tokyo, like, then it's a completely different conversation, because the assumptions are very different, all right? So the point of this video is not about how to have perfect pronunciation. It's just really focus on this, especially if you're worried about pronunciation, or you're worried about like some vocabulary that you don't know. Don't worry about that. Just begin on the right foot. Start on the right foot, and that's something you can easily prepare for before you say anything to people as well. All right, Azar says, hi, everybody. Man, when did you start? Oh, no, I started 38 minutes ago. Even though I set an alarm to attend from the beginning, you started 15 minutes in advance. Yes, I started 15 minutes early today. I just got in and was like, hey, let's get it going. Leo says, is it live? Morning, nice to see you there. Well, it's live right now, but if you're watching this later, then it's not live, depending on when you're watching. Eileen says, let's see, hey, Drew, I'm from Brazil, and I feel that I have good vocabulary, but I don't know what happened when I start speaking in English. It's like the words disappear. So I've talked about this in many videos. I'll give a basic. There are many reasons why people will lose their words when they speak, but the basic idea is that you just don't know the vocabulary as well as you think you do. So you should, when you're learning the language, especially because people are taught through their native language when they learn. So as Japan as an example, it's probably the same thing in Brazil or anywhere else. Usually people are learning in elementary school if they start learning English that early, but even if they don't, they will typically learn it through their native language. So people in Japan will learn English through Japanese, and so this is learning English as a second language. You're learning it through your native language, and you're trying to study rules, and you're learning a more formal version of the vocabulary, and this makes it more difficult to understand. And when you don't understand, you don't feel confident about the language, you don't know the language very well, and that stops you from speaking. So you will feel nervous, and that will help you, or I guess not help you, but hurt you when you lose your words in conversations. So there's a chain of learning, or kind of from the learning, you have this chain reaction of, I learn badly, and it's not your fault. It's just like I gave the example just now, it's how most people learn the language. So if you learn English as a second language, then you will think through other languages or your native language. You will think about rules and translations when you speak. And so that will make it more difficult for you to learn the language. So as an example, here's one person here, they're learning English as a second language. And what they're doing is like, there's, if we just imagine like the actual English language here, they're trying to, here, let me put this the other way. So here's the native English that a native speaker would really use. What this person is doing is they're going through a series of filters before they get to this, and so it's a slowed down version, it's a formal version, it's a little bit more clear, the vocabulary is different, and so by the time they get over here to the real language, like a real speaking situation, it's completely different. So the language that they learn in school is very different from what you would have in a real English speaking environment, okay? And because of that, that causes all of the trouble, the problems that people have when they learn languages. So instead of learning English as a second language, you learn English as a first language, which is what I do in my videos. So I want to help you understand like a native does. And when you understand like a native, you're not thinking about rules, but you understand the rules intuitively. So you learn with, simple examples that can help you understand something like, look, red marker. You can see this thing, red marker, blue marker, black marker. And so I'm showing you this, and your brain can look at this example, and I could do it in Japanese like kuro. Kuroi maka, aoi maka, akai maka. Aka, ao, kuro. And because I do that, I'm actually allowing your brain to understand the language as a first language rather than trying to think about rules and translations and all of the things that cause you trouble. So how you learn is how you speak. And if you would like to not have those confusing issues that stop you from expressing yourself, just start learning English as a first language. And somebody else looks like practice is important as well. The thing about practice is like the learning itself is the practice. What people think they do. Let me draw this a little bit better. So the English as a second language approach is you kind of learn something. You have the learning phase over here. And then you have a practice phase, and then somehow you get fluent from that. So the teacher will say, oh, like here's some vocabulary, now I want you to practice that, and if you practice that, then you get fluent. But this doesn't really work for most people because it doesn't work the way people actually learn languages. So what people are really doing when they're learning like English as a first language approach is the learning phase is here, but like the learning and the practice they're actually in like the same situation. And instead of trying to speak, we're getting lots of examples that help us understand the language really well. And then we speak. So speaking is over here. So what people would think of like the English as a second language approach, kind of speaking is over here. Like people think speaking means practice, but here, like, practice actually means more examples and more learning. So most of the time, like, this is like 90%. See if that's in there. Yeah. So this is like 90% of your actual learning time is the practice as you get more examples of things, as you really understand something well. And then you speak. So the speaking, like kind of speaking practice, I don't know. I don't have an exact number for this, if it's 10% or 3%, whatever. But the point is, most of the actual learning time is just the learning itself. And the learning itself is different. So as an example, for learning English as a second language, I might take a word, I don't know, like run. And I'm just going to repeat this word over and over and over again and try to remember what it means. Maybe I will have a translation, like let's say in Japanese, if I'm trying to learn that, I have a translation like hashiru, like to run like that. And so I have one idea of what run means, but in the English as a first language approach, we take a word like run, and I'm going to give you lots of different examples about how run works, because we've got running, like the kind of running you do with your legs, like an animal could run or a person could run, but we also have different uses of run, like running water. So you could have some still water, like a lake or something where the water isn't moving, or you could have a river with running water. Or people might have running water in their house, like you have pipes that bring water into your house. So the movement of that thing, we call that running. And another example would be an engine, or you could have like any kind of system, like I'm running a business, I'm operating, something like that. So here, as I give you these different uses of run, you get a really strong understanding of what the word run means, and you've learned that like a native speaker. So I'm not using a translation to help you understand the word. I'm helping you learn it through lots of different examples that make you feel very confident and certain about your understanding of the word. Okay? So here, like your confidence and certainty really comes from this over here. Okay, you know a word in your native language and you translated that into English. But if then you hear like a different thing, like you hear about someone running a company, you're like, well, wait a minute, I thought run means like running like that. But a native speaker doesn't mean they might have that same thinking. Like a child learns like running, like I'm running in the park before they learn about running a company. But when they hear running a company, they begin, like they make that connection naturally. Oh, look at that. That's interesting. Like we're deepening, we're strengthening our understanding of the word, but we're doing it as a native. All right. So being a native, it just means you're learning something as a first language, like I just helped you right there. So I've helped you understand the word run like a native speaker. So that's learning English as a first language. Okay. So when you understand something very well, because you've got lots of different examples, you've heard many different speakers use that thing, that's when you start using it fluently. So you notice, like, I can give you that, I'm helping you understand that, that is the practice, okay? So all of that explanation I just gave you that helps you understand the word run, that is the practice, okay? That's why I like learning and practice, it's basically the same thing. It's not like you learn something, like you learn a word like run, and then my practice is like, okay, I have to repeat the word run, 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 run. Because if you repeat something, it's not helping you understand it better. It's just, I'm not learning anything more by repeating that word. So I will recognize, okay, like run, like I see, look, there's a dog running in the park. But if a friend says, oh, look at that running water over there. Running water, what does that mean? And that's because I'm not prepared like a native speaker is. Okay? So, again, the problems that people have, it's really just from this or this. Either you learn English as a second language and you have all those communication problems, or you learn English as a first language and communication flows very easily. Okay? That's it. And then either you can do this by yourself or you do this with a lovely gentleman like me who can actually help you understand the language very well, very quickly, and that's how you get fluent quickly. Okay? So fluency does not have to take a long time. It doesn't have to be a difficult process. It should be a very natural thing, just like I showed you with this example of run. Let's see. Okay, hopefully All right, I think I answered that one. All right, hello, Professor. Let's see, engagement and confidence is important in the conversation as well as we should know what we are going to say to someone else in that situation. Yeah, so again, about the specific content, the specific topic for this video, the basic idea is that even if you are not prepared, I'm not saying that you need to prepare a whole conversation beforehand. I'm just saying get the greeting right, because the greeting sets the tone for how the conversation will flow, and it will help you understand, or it will help other people, help the listener understand you better. Okay, so even if you make mistakes, they will be recognizing, oh, okay, I understand what this person is trying to say. They will make a better effort to do that if the greeting is good. Neil says, all right, makes sense for the great examples. Glad to hear it. Hilda again, hi there, Drew. Yesterday I read listen a lot about War of the Roses. Good start leads to great expression. Now I am a Yorkist. I see. Again, Shamsa, you told us 2 days ago next live would probably be on Thursday, so I woke up excited. I am excited. All right, well, yes, but it is Thursday today, and so welcome back. I do apologize about the ambulances. MBO says, hello, teacher. Is it possible to master phrasal verbs? If so, how can I master phrasal verbs because it is difficult for me? I don't know how you're learning phrasal verbs now, but I'm guessing you're probably trying to learn them with the English as a second language approach rather than English as a first language. And so learning them as a first language is like this. So you can actually just search right on my YouTube channel. You will find Visual Guide to Phrasal Verbs. Search for that. That program is also in Fluent for Life. But you can learn just the actual way you should be learning phrasal verbs is the same way native children learn them. Again, the English as a first language approach is not just for people who were born with English-speaking parents. You aren't born native. You become native by how you learn. Okay, so you become a fluent speaker because of how you learn. And this is why you can take a child, I could take a Japanese child and bring them to the United States, and even if their parents are Japanese, I still raise them up in the United States, they will become fluent English speakers. It's because of how they learn, not who they are. Okay, so it's not the environment, it's just how they learn. And so you can learn the same way, even like this. Just like if you understood the word run better, if you now feel more confident about what the word run means, all right, it's without you even saying anything. It's because I made it more understandable. I helped you understand the word like a native. So usually a native person, like a child, it will take many years. Even my daughters, so my older daughter is 8 years old, and she doesn't know run a company. She doesn't know that like usage of run. She knows run, like I'm running around, running at the park. She learns that very early. But she learns running a company maybe in high school or something like that. So my job is to help you learn these same things, but much faster. So rather than learning, like you take a whole year or 5 years or 10 years between these examples, we give them to you all very quickly, and that helps you get a really strong understanding of the vocabulary like a native, but much faster than the way a native would learn. But that's how you do it. All right, let's see. Hello from Turkey says, Alan says, when you make discount for Fluent for Life, we will like occasionally run discounts, like, we had one not that long ago, but we will see. Isn't it hard to write Chinese characters in Japanese? Well, I mean, it's not like hard to write them so much as there are a lot of them. See, the nice thing about English, or one nice thing about English, is we have just the alphabet. There are the capital letters and the lowercase. And so if you can usually sound something out. So that means you can read the characters and understand what the English letters mean, probably, usually. But Japanese, if you can't read the character because you don't know what it is, then you don't understand it. And sometimes I know what a character is, but I don't know how to read it. So I can understand, like if I'm in the toilet and I see like the character for like nagasu or whatever, like to flush the toilet, nagareru, like to have something flow. It's like, okay, I understand what that means, even if I couldn't, read it in, like, know how to pronounce that character. So the painful thing is there are just a lot of them, and you have to really take your time making stories for these things. I find that's the best way to remember them. And it's nice you can use a mnemonic. So a mnemonic. Mnemonics are useful for learning things about reading and writing because you have time to read and write. But I found mnemonics are less helpful for speaking because you need to be able to communicate quickly. All right. Anyway, so I use mnemonics to help me learn Japanese. Like as an example, this is a common one. So if we learn like a character, so this is the character for tree. And if we have like two of them together, this would be like a grove, and we could have three of them together. I'm just going to write it very quickly here. So if you have three of them together, then we would have a forest. You know, so you get a kind of general idea. Oh, that's interesting. And like this is a person next to a tree for like relaxing or resting. He's like leaning against a tree. Now, not all kanji are like pictographic like this, but you can generally create like a story or something like that that will help you remember them. So it's not that the language or the characters are difficult themselves. It's just how you learn the language, and that's why again learning English as a second language makes the language much more difficult. It makes the process much more painful. It takes a lot longer when you're learning that way rather than the natural way of learning English as a first language. Let's see. Well, Gazanoko says, hello, it's my first time and I'm Japanese. Good to see you. Nice to see you there. HRS says Korea and Japan are in the same time zone. Oh, okay. I didn't know that. Oh, that's interesting. Why didn't I know that? All right. Yeah, I don't know how far that the time zone extends. What's nice is we don't have daylight savings time, so I didn't know if any other countries did not have that as well. Jay Jeps says, hi Drew, thanks for today's class. I have to excuse myself. I have an Indonesia class this morning. All right. Let's see. Apprendi says, hello, I'm Brazilian living in the United States, learning and training my English. It's not easy. Well, continue to learn English as a first language. Look for first language examples that help you understand the language. When you feel, I got that, I understood something, that's how you know you're learning the right way. C says, I will learn about passive voice, and I heard that was uncommon and used in speaking. You might hear the passive voice like something was done to you, or, it usually takes longer to express that, so people are usually using the passive voice like if something happens. But an interesting thing is young kids will learn the difference between an active voice and passive voice, where they're basically using that to talk about the fault of something. So who did something? So as an example, like a young child, they don't really know the difference between like active voice and passive voice. They're not thinking about the grammar logically like that, but they will understand like the vase of flowers, it fell down. Okay? So like it fell down, rather than like I knocked it over or something. And so they're learning like these kind of differences about the language, and that's like a common thing, like, oh no, like something spilled, rather than like I spilled something. But again, like it's in general, people are speaking with an active voice because it's shorter and easier. Victor says, good evening from Brazil. I got probably through a job interview in English yesterday, and when I left, I realized I mispronounced the word accompany. I said accompany. I felt so sad. I hate to laugh about that, but yes, it happens sometimes. It's much better to use words that you feel confident about using, and so even if you might want to say something a bit more, I don't know, like a more advanced word, maybe you're not so confident about pronouncing it, I would stick with something simpler and just make sure you can communicate that. So you notice I'm not using a lot of complicated or like difficult language. It's not a lot of advanced vocabulary when I teach these videos. And that's how I would communicate if I'm in a meeting or something like that, unless I need to demonstrate some kind of knowledge of technical information. But other than that, I would try to communicate simply. Again, Seamus, as far as my observation, pronunciation can't improve overnight. One time I listened to many native speakers, but over time I listen to them daily and I could achieve good pronunciation. Am I right? Well, pronunciation is improved like everything else in the language, one word or sound at a time. So you can learn how to pronounce a word well, and then you learn, other words or how to blend those words together. So you can focus on that. It's instead of thinking about pronunciation in general, often people can say some things correctly, but other things they have trouble with. So you just pick those things and focus on them. Dennis says, greetings from middle of the world, Ecuador. Nice to see you there. Yeah, I guess you don't have to worry about like summer or winter or whatever. It's just like nice all the time. Let's see. I think I got that. Receiver says, do native catch speed with wild accent and poor pronunciation? I'm worried about that. Do natives catch speed with wild accent and poor pronunciation? Well, if you're asking about like how you speak, the speech speed, like your speech, yeah, I mean, you would probably have, if people can't understand what you're saying, I would speak more slowly if that's what you're asking. I don't quite get that though. Let me know if you have a question about that though. What does walk you through mean? So if you think about like a person, maybe like you and I are in a museum or something, and I'm slowly walking you through, like physically through, walking with you through the museum and saying, look, here's this lovely piece of art over here, and I tell you about the history, and now we walk through a different area. I'm taking you and kind of guiding you through that thing. And so walk you through from that physical idea, we get the figurative idea of me, like if I'm walking you through how fluency works, or if I'm explaining something, like giving you instructions for a class or something like that, I'm walking you through it. So I'm explaining how things work, usually in some kind of steps. So the first thing we will do is this, and then that thing. So you can ask someone else, like, you could please explain that to me, or could you walk me through how that happens? And that specifically means what are the steps that we would do to do something. So if I'm trying to sell, I don't know, some software, something like that to a person, and they say, oh, like walk me through how that works. And I'd say, oh, okay, well, the first thing we do is we put the software on your computer, and then we show you how to use it, and then we monitor that. And so these are the steps you would do something, to walk someone through that. Very common phrasal verb. Abdullah Rahman says, I always forget the S after he, she, it in present simple. What can I do to solve this problem? I would hear lots of examples and get lots of examples of that, like we do in Fluent for Life. And I talked about this in my previous video, so that was a few days ago, Monday, I think. And I said, what you focus on, that will naturally, you will get many more examples of that. So if you really focus on something, oh, I really need to pay attention for this, you will start hearing those examples from people. Like I said this, and then she said that, and then he said, she said. So you'll get lots of examples of this when people are talking about each other, or someone is telling a story about someone else. So this is another thing we do in Fluent for Life. When you're hearing different stories, you're hearing people talk about other people in their life, or something happened to them, they will say like, well, he does this, or she does that, or whatever. So when you're telling your brain to pay attention for that, watch that previous video, the last, not this live video, but the previous one. Watch that one, and it will explain more about this. Lily Receiver, I think for native speakers are able to understand wild accent better than migrants who speak another language because they can guess from context. Yes, I mean, natives, especially if they've had experience with a lot of different accents, it's easier for them. But just because they're native doesn't mean they have that ability. So a native speaker, for example, could live in a small town, like someone in a small town in Iowa in the United States, and they know other people who sound like them, and maybe they don't travel around very much. So they could have someone from New York or Boston or other native speakers come and speak differently, and they might not understand everything they say. So the vocabulary will be different. The pronunciation will be a little bit different. So it's not just about being native. Hello from China. Let's see here. Again, some days I watched the news for Matthew Perry's Friends sitcom show. He died drowning from inhalation. I didn't understand properly. Yeah, I don't know exactly how he died, but if that, like, as a news event, like anything else, if you get that from 10 different sources, so if you go to Google and search like Matthew Perry died news, and it will give you some videos about that and maybe some news articles or newspaper or whatever, even like a blog or podcast or something. So if you listen to a bunch of those or watch a bunch of those videos, it will help you understand that. It will teach you the vocabulary. Same thing we did with the run example that I just gave. H-Ray says, if I mispronounce runny as a lunny, as in I have a lunny nose, what impression does that give you? Well, you mean like runny, like you have a runny nose? Like, yeah, I would think, oh, okay, like, I mean, this person has they understand vocabulary, but they're not, they don't quite understand it as well as they could, like, to get to that native level. So I will have a bunch of assumptions about you. I will guess, like, there are probably many words that you don't know, so I have to change the way I speak. And this is another interesting thing about that. So the opening or the beginning of the conversation, like, let's say I go to a party with, so let's say I don't know, imagine I'm a fluent speaker of French. I am not, but imagine I am. So I go to a party in France, and there are like, let's say there are two French people over here. I'll put a little, like a beret on there. I know probably all French people don't have that, but just as it's easier to understand the difference. So if I like join them, let's say these two people are talking and I say like, bonjour, like, but if I pronounce it correctly, so if I say that, they're going to think, oh, like maybe this person can speak. And so like they will speak to each other and they will also speak with me in that same way until they discover I don't speak French, okay? So pronunciation is important as like a signaling thing, where I'm showing them, hey, like you and I are in the same group. So I don't just know if I say like, oh, bonjour, people think, oh, like what is this American, with bad pronunciation? But if I'm like, oh, bonjour, and I don't know if I'm pronouncing it correctly or not. But the point is, if I say it correctly, even just saying bonjour like correctly, that will change the way they communicate with me. All right. But what often happens is like the non-native comes into a conversation and these people will speak in a different way to this person. But when they speak to each other, it's a different way of communicating. Okay, so like this is why like that greeting is so important. And so if I say like I have a lunny nose, I will think like it will take me a second to understand what you say, but now I will kind of lower my way of speaking so that you can understand me better. All right, and so this is called code switching. Code switching. And so often learners will find like, oh, if I'm only speaking with one person over here, I can understand that native very well. But probably that native is changing the way they speak to make it easier for you. And you know that because when they start speaking, you got two French people speaking to each other, and I can't understand what they're saying. I know that like, oh, okay, they're speaking differently to me. And that's like they're just being polite and trying to help me understand the language. Okay? So they are code switching there. All right, Juan says, hello, everyone out there. I'm late again. It's okay. Better late than never. MBO says, hello, teacher. Is this normally how you talk? Because I can fully understand are you using simple English. Yes. So this is my easier way of communicating. In my, I think the last video I gave an example of me talking about something just as I would normally speak about it. But the main difference is, so I'm I'm a little bit less clear. I'm not like mumbling my words, but I'm I'm speaking faster, so my words are blending together more. But the vocabulary would be different. The vocabulary is the biggest thing. So I would be using movie quotes or something that I change my speech depending on who I'm speaking with. And even within different native speakers, we will speak differently. So I speak differently with my children than I do with my adult friends. All right, because my children don't know some movie quote from the 1980s or whatever. Like if I tell my friend who knows a certain movie and I know he knows that movie, I can use that like a quote from that movie, but my children would not know that movie. So I would have to find a connection, a way of speaking with them so they can understand what I'm saying. So it's not only about people who don't speak the language, it's people actually communicating differently with each other, because the communication, it's also what you assume the other person knows. So like if a person is trying to tell a joke, I have to make sure that other person understands that reference, that they know what I'm talking about. Because if they don't understand what I'm talking about, then it's not funny. Like they don't understand what I'm talking about. So that's not even a problem with fluency, it's just a problem with not knowing the vocabulary specifically. And that happens in native speakers as well. Receiver, Lily, thanks. As an immigrant, I still poorly recognize English speech with accent, so I'm wondering if natives not annoyed. Well, people won't be like, it depends on the communication situation. So if you work at like a government building and native speakers are coming there and they want to, like if you work at the Department of Motor Vehicles where people want to get a driver's license and it's difficult for you to understand them, that would be frustrating for people. But if you're just trying to go to the store and buy something, that's why setting the tone is so important at the beginning. Like when you meet someone, you go to the doctor or at a store or something, you give a good greeting, project confidence, and it will be much easier for that person to understand you, even if you are not pronouncing things perfectly. Mr. Morrow says, hey, teacher, I see you there. What's the difference between through, though, thought, and how to distinguish them? Juan, you should get Frederick. I'll put let's see if that fits up there. Rather than me telling you that or pronouncing them differently for you, all those words are in there. Just get the app, click on the link in the description below this video, and you can get that. So it's much easier to see how those things work, and you will remember them much more easily that way. XTL, look at that. Just woke up, no class today. All Call of Duty day. Nice to see you. Let's see. I can't pronounce the Cyrillic. Pronunciation is my weakest ability and most of my problematic issues that I normally have nowadays. And of course, ain't enough much lexicon that I really naturally review. Well, again, Fluent for Life will help you with that. But Frederick as well, if you want to improve your listening and pronunciation, get the app. It will train you. You will actually train yourself really like a game, and you will improve your pronunciation naturally. The app really works. It will work very quickly for you. Just play through it, and you will start sounding and understanding people much more easily. MBL says, what does set off mean? Well, and an example of something for set off could mean to trigger something. So if I have a bomb, I push a button to set off the bomb, to explode it, to set off. But there are other meanings as well. And this is why it's important not to just think what does set off mean? It's the vocabulary with some kind of situation. So that's how you learn it like a native speaker. So always be open to that. When you ask someone what does a word mean, if they don't tell you multiple meanings, be open to that there might be other ones, sometimes related to that, or sometimes not related. Like the word proof, for example. So the word proof. So a proof could mean I'm giving you some kind of evidence or showing you, look, if I say I have a red marker in my hand, maybe you don't know for sure, but if I show you proof, look, I proved it. See, I have a red marker in my hand. So that's proof. But we also have a different meaning of it, like waterproof. So waterproof. So waterproof means water can't get into something. So I'm wearing some waterproof gloves, so water can't get into my where my hand is. All right. So I could have waterproof or soundproof. So soundproof means sound can't get into something as well. All right. So I'm just giving you these quick examples to remind you that the word itself usually doesn't mean anything. It's just the word in a situation. So when do we use a word? And there might be different meanings of the word proof depending on when we use it. All right. So be careful. I'm just trying to get people to not think about like, what does a word mean? Because it's not just, usually words don't mean anything by themselves, and often they have many meanings, and some of them, like these different meanings of proof, could be very very different, excuse me. Bangju means help in Chinese, so that's good to know. Bridget says, hello, Mr. Drew Badger, nice to see you there. Mika says, for me, the English pronunciation of turtle is difficult. My tongue doesn't move that way. Doesn't move the way I want it to, and work and walk, those pronunciation are difficult to hear. I've been trying for many years. So Nihonjin, ne? So you are Japanese, like you would probably say like tatoru, 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 like ninja tatorus, ninja tatorus for Ninja Turtles. Yes, so like a lot of that is just because those sounds are not in Japanese. So again, get Frederick. If you have not gotten that already, it's incredibly cheap for what it is. It's like a college like personal pronunciation trainer, but for like almost no money. So get Frederick. It will train you to pronounce those words, like things like turtle, and help you understand also like to listen for those things as well. So it will train you step by step in that. Alejandro, yo Drew, what's up, man? Greetings from Mexico. Nice to see you there. Thumbs up right off the bat. Thank you. Whenever I see your name, I think of that. Isn't there a Shakira song? It's like Alejandro. I don't know how the song goes, but I know isn't there like a Shakira song? Alejandro. I like that name. Let's see, Farah says, sir, how many languages do you speak and how long have you mastered them? I only speak English and Japanese, and I know a tiny bit of French and Spanish that I speak badly. But I don't have that when people ask me how long does it take to master that, it's like you get fluent in individual words and phrases as you learn them. So like I gave the example a little bit ago of the word run. So when people are learning the word run, if you understand that word really, really well, you become fluent in that word. You feel confident about using it, and then you can also get fluent in other words. But you don't like get fluent in the whole language. As you get fluent in individual words, you build your general fluency. So it's actually a very quick process, depending on how you learn. But before I started learning Japanese, when I came to Japan, I had already failed for many years to learn different languages. So I learned French and Latin and Spanish, but I can't speak any of those things because I learned them like English as a second language, the same way I learned Spanish as a second language, or French as a second language, or Latin as a second language, instead of actually learning it like a native speaker would learn it. And so when I started learning Japanese as a first language, not as a second language, then I started becoming a good speaker very quickly. Like within like days, I could say many words, and within weeks, it was very easy to have conversations with people, understand things. There was still a lot I didn't know, but I could understand a lot more because I'm understanding it like a native rather than trying to memorize rules and translations. Let's see, Dran says, Drew, can you give tips on how to learn more from native English speaker while they are speaking? Should we take down notes on the words they say? I would focus on something. So if you think about a particular word or something that you hear from someone that's interesting, you can make a mental note of that or write it down, or you can kind of stop the conversation right there. So if either you are watching a video of two people speaking, like you would do in Fluent for Life, or you're in a conversation with someone, and so I might stop a conversation with someone, they're saying something and they use an interesting expression. I would just say, oh wait, that's really interesting. Like you just used this word or phrase, I didn't know that. And then just to help me learn it and understand it better, I would actually make a little side conversation about that vocabulary. So don't feel bad about that, like stopping the conversation. So a friend of mine is telling me Like, yeah, my career was going, it was like going really well. I was having promotions. So this is like a friend explaining me this thing. And then suddenly like everything just like went off a cliff. And so if I'm a non-native speaker, or even if I'm a native speaker and I don't notice that, so they're like, oh, my career was going well, and then suddenly it went off a cliff. And I think, oh, that's interesting. Like, went off a cliff. Like, what do you mean by that? And I can kind of understand from the context. They're saying like, oh, like my career was going well. You know, I'm getting promotions. It's increasing. It's improving. And then suddenly, like, boom. If we think about like an actual cliff, like here's some plants and water down here. So this is a cliff right here. It's like the edge of a land area. And so like, oh no, I fell off a cliff. Like this is the cliff right here. The edge of some, like the cliff side here. And so we use this same, like, oh, they're using that figuratively. Very interesting. Like, oh, my career was going well. And then, oh no, like my career went off a cliff. So I can understand contextually, like, oh, like going off a cliff probably means suddenly going badly. So if I know what the word cliff is, I can understand like it, like even if I don't understand like any of these words, I know that they're explaining one thing and then suddenly it's the opposite, or suddenly it's different. So I recognize like, oh, like they're explaining the career is going well, but so something is changing. I'm listening to the key word there, and then I hear, oh, like they went off a cliff. And now when I hear that, I think, oh, like that's an interesting way of explaining that. And so suddenly I get excited and I stop the conversation instead of, like continuing to listen to them. I want to control the conversation at that point and say, oh, like, what do you mean? What do you mean it went off a cliff? And then, and that's me just using the vocabulary, listening to something like that. And, oh, so they're explaining, yeah, like it was going well. And then suddenly, like I lost my job and something else happened, and so it's like, wow, like it was going up and then suddenly something happened. So it went off a cliff. So that's how, like, either if you're just watching people speaking, you can stop or pause a video and then do a little bit of research, get some more examples, or you can actually turn the conversation to discuss that thing. So look at that. Oh, we can talk about the language itself. That's really interesting. It went off a cliff. What do you mean by that? Like, that's an interesting way to describe it. And so you can just talk about the vocabulary in the conversation itself. Okay? So any of those things are fine, but you probably wouldn't, like, if I'm in a conversation and I don't want to stop the conversation, I would try to remember that, but I don't know, it's a little bit awkward to say, oh, you just said went off a cliff. Let me like pause right there. Let me write that phrase down, But to help you remember it, you would make the conversation about that vocabulary. Okay? So my life is going well, but suddenly it went off a cliff. My career went off a cliff. And you might hear other people describe it in a different way. Instead of like went off a cliff, someone might say like went off the rails. And you think, oh, that's an interesting way to describe it. My career went off the rails. And if I'm thinking like, like a non-native speaker is trying to look at all these individual words and they're like, well, I guess this is an idiom because I don't really understand what these things mean. But if you're paying attention to the conversation, so my career was going well, and then something the opposite or something different happened, and then it went off the rails. And then you can talk with them like, oh, that's interesting. Like, it went off the rails. What do you mean by that? If you need more help to understand it. But this is like the same idea of like some train tracks. So the train is usually going on the track. It's on the two rails. You can imagine a train moving like this. But if it goes off the rails, oh no. So here's the train moving like this, like it's going on the rails. So like the train wheels are on the rails like this. But oh no, something happened. The train went off the rails. It's off the rails. Like now that's a huge problem because you get the train off the track and it's really difficult to put it back on again. And so it's the same kind of idea. Like it went off a cliff. It went off the rails. All right. But hopefully, let me know if this is making sense. The chat got a little bit quiet right there. But the main idea is when you're in conversations with other people, it's not what you say that gets you fluent. It's what the other person says that gets you fluent. Okay? And that's why, like, you can repeat things, but you don't become more fluent by repeating things yourself. You become more fluent as you hear these examples of vocabulary and you're paying attention. You're connecting the vocabulary with the situation. My life was going well, and then suddenly it went badly. But a native speaker, usually they would use a kind of more interesting expression like this. So suddenly my life went off the rails. It went off a cliff. Okay, so you will hear people expressing things like this, and it's okay to talk about that in the conversation. You can say, "Oh, that's like an interesting way of describing it," or whatever, or like, "What do you mean by that?" You know, if you really don't understand from the context what something means. But that will help it become more memorable for you, and as you're using that, now you begin repeating something that you learned from somebody else. So the learning, the fluency, happens as you understand the language better. So now you have a situation like something went badly, but here's a different way. I just gave you two new ways of describing that. So something went off the rails or something went off a cliff to describe a sudden and really bad problem or something that changed from going properly to now just being in a really bad situation. All right, that was a long explanation, but hopefully this makes sense where either you can stop a video and do that same kind of thing, look for more examples of that, or if you're in a conversation, you can continue to speak about that. How are we doing? 11 o'clock. Let's see here. All right, I got that one. Again, Sham, if we watch a prank, same topic, for example, dating someone, if we watch many videos of dating someone, probably we can improve our English. Sometimes I watch American pranks. Yes, and so there are lots of ways, again, like focusing on a particular thing. This was just an example of like something going badly, like suddenly going badly. My life was going well, and then suddenly it was not going well. But people don't speak like that. They speak in a more, like a kind of interesting and figurative way. So they want to create an image, and you can think of myself, oh my God, like it went off a cliff. You can think about something just like going well, and then suddenly like, going very badly. All right. Is it correct to say your alarm went off? Yes. So I can cause something to go off, like I can trigger a bomb, or the bomb can go off by itself. It went off. Very good. Is writing correctly important? Well, yes. In the same way, speaking correctly is important, especially if you need to communicate something accurately to people, like in a professional situation. Alan says, hi, I don't know that's Shakira's song. Maybe you're thinking of Fernando from ABBA. No, it's not Fernando. It's like Alejandro. I think that's a Shakira song. Look that up. I don't know if it's Shakira. I think it's a Shakira song. Blue sky low, Drew, it's very cold around Osaka. Yes, someone else was just saying it's cold around Osaka. It's cold in Nagasaki too. It was snowing this morning. I think some schools are actually closed here just in case they were worried about the weather getting too bad. Jose says, practicing English phonemes, excuse me. I read that badly. Can improve pronunciation, and then going after each word to study that can help study connect speech. Yes. So this is exactly what we do in Frederick. It will teach you not only the phonetic rules of the language, but also lots of words that break those sound rules. These are what we call sight words, because you have to remember them by sight. Duran just heard run their card in a restaurant. Yeah. So again, like if you think about processing a card, like to move something through something else, like to run a card through something like that. So you can also think about like running someone through with a sword. So if I take a sword, like be careful before I run you through, like an old pirate might say that, like to run you through with a sword. It's like I'm going to quickly like move it or stab you with something like that. It's the same idea. But you see how you get more examples and you're like, like, wow, I understand the language much better. Like, wow, like let me run your card. Let me run your ID. So like I'm checking some information, processing that in that same idea of like running it through the system. So people often talk about computer systems in this way. So you're running something through something else. All right, let's see. It might be a Lady Gaga song. Really? I don't know if that's Lady Gaga or not. Let me see here. I feel bad like Googling this, but actually, no, maybe it's not. I don't know. Maybe there's a song called La Tortura. I don't know if that's correct or not. But I'm pretty sure there's some like lyrics with something like it's like a kind of like dancey kind of song, like Alejandro. Someone has a song called. Just look up a song called Alejandro. Let's see. I can't understand what the Frederick means exactly. Something like a free direction, or what is it? So if you click on the link in the description below this video, Frederick is an app. So just like you can use it on your phone or your iPad or your tablet that will teach you pronunciation. So it will teach you the rules for how pronunciation works, and it will give you lots of examples, and it's like a game where you teach yourself the language. Let's see. Lily says you couldn't learn Latin as a native speaker because native speakers of Latin are not allowed. Well, yes and no. I mean, it's like a dead language, but people used to learn that just like people learn Greek. So like you would still learn those languages, and you would know how to say them. So I still remember like puer and puerta for like boy and girl. It's like the one thing I remember from Latin class. Neil says, yes, with some thumbs up over there. Jose, is it a synonym of fall but formal? What do you mean? Oh, like fall off a cliff, are you talking about, or something else? Well, fall, I mean, you could have different ways of expressing that, but like to go off a cliff, so this is like to go off or to move off. So you could also say, yes, like my career went or fell off a cliff. It's the same thing. You could say that. Again, John, I can understand native without captions, but when I listen to English songs, I don't understand without captions. Yeah, sometimes music can be more difficult to understand, but it's okay to read transcripts. I think there are funny videos on YouTube of native English speakers not knowing lyrics to songs because not everybody does. From Brazil, hello, says Leonardo. Lily says, app for improving pronunciation. The link is in the description. Yeah, thank you. I totally agree with your method of learning English. I can still remember the example of harsh, which you learned from previous video months ago, says Anglia. Yep, glad to hear it. So that's what I do. Like, I mean, if you imagine the English as a second language way, it's just to tell you a word. Here's harsh. Here's, I don't know, maybe some examples, but usually with like a translation. I will give you a definition of the word, and then you have to repeat that word to yourself but repeating the word, the repetition of something, you can do this with a word right now. So if I say the word bib, if I just repeat that to myself, bib, 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 after a while, I will actually like not understand what the word means. It's another weird psychology thing that happens when we repeat words over and over again. So your brain gets like kind of tired of information if you repeat it. And that's why we're bored by repeating things, and we always want what's new. We watch the news because we want to know what's new. We ask other people, hey, what's new? What's happening? What's new in your life? Because our brain, it doesn't care about what happened to you before unless that's important to your life now. But repeating words over and over again won't help you get fluent. Instead, you should really understand them by getting lots of different varied examples and hearing those from different people. So it will help you understand the word like a native speaker so you feel confident about using it. All right? You become a good speaker when you actually become fluent as you learn. So you learn, you feel more confident, and then you speak. That's how the process really works. Yes, I figured la tortura is the torture, but I don't know if that has like Alejandro in that or not. Let's see. Call your captions like subs equals subtitles. Yeah. Let's see. Let's see. For your information, to incidentally, so for your information is like those are actually two different things. For your information, people will sometimes shorten this as FYI. It just means I'm explaining something to you, like just letting you know. For your information, like the store will be closing early today. So maybe you don't care about that, but I'm letting you know. I'm just giving you some vocabulary about that. But incidentally is like usually there's some kind of connection about something else. Like, so I'm talking with a friend of mine, like maybe you say, hey, I'm looking for like a green shirt like this. And I can say, oh, you can buy one at like this store, like you can get one at Uniqlo. Like this is a Uniqlo shirt. And I say, oh, incidentally, I was at Uniqlo yesterday and I saw the shirt for sale. So incidentally, like I'm connecting those two things. I wouldn't just say like incidentally, like I bought bananas 2 weeks ago, because there's no connection between those two things. So I could say like, I could just tell my family, hey, for your information, I bought bananas yesterday. But if that's not important to them, or they don't care, or like if I just tell them some news, like it is like for their information, but it's not like for them that's important for them. Hopefully that makes sense. So they're two different things. Incidentally is typically there's a connection between two things, but for your information could just be giving information that like maybe there's a connection there, but it might not be. It's something you might want to know. It's just news you might want to know. Hopefully that makes sense. And also like for explaining that, you can say, I know your English is better than your writing, but rather than putting it in Japanese, you can just say, what's the difference? So what's the difference between incidentally and for your information? What's the difference? What's the difference? What's the difference? Again, Shem, 107 people are watching this live, but 70 people like that button. I think people forgot. Well, you know, people get lazy. It's okay. You don't have to. Yes, like feel free to click the like button if you like the video. Lady Gaga. That was really like a Lady Gaga has Alejandro song. Maybe. Wow. All right. I guess why did I think that was Shakira? Oh, that's interesting. She kind of sounds like Shakira in that song. Hello, teacher. What does run off mean? Well, it could mean different things, but rather than like going on a bunch of different, I want you to run off and go figure that out. So go Google that. All right. Okay, I saw the formal point of view of formal or informal speaking. Yes. So you could, if I understand you correctly, depending on what you're talking about, like you could have a formal way of expressing yourself or a more casual way of expressing yourself. So set off and go off. And again, like I don't want to spend a lot of time just defining words for you, because a better lesson is actually to take something and we go deeper into it to help you understand what that thing is, and give you lots more examples. And so like you can Google those examples and just like look for, or even use Chat GPT, and it will give you a bunch of different things, but you will learn if they're the same or they can be used similarly or not. Blue Sky says, if I take a private lesson with you, is it on Zoom or Skype? Please give me your information. We don't do any private lessons. It would be far too expensive for people, and it's also not necessary. I don't recommend you take private lessons with anybody, because you don't want to just have one teacher to learn with. When you learned your native language, you had lots of different people who taught you the language. So you had like your parents, or your brothers and sisters, or your school teachers, or people on television. So this is what we do in Fluent for Life. You should not be learning with a private teacher. It's nice to have someone who can explain things, but you must also have all these other examples of native speech from different people. So this is what we do in Fluent for Life. So rather than try to pay for like private lessons with us, which we don't offer anyway, just get Fluent for Life. Just click on the link in the description below this video, and it will get you fluent faster and give you a lot more examples than you would just having a private teacher. Let's see. Canero, if I got that pronounced correctly, nice to see you back over there. Hello, Drew. I think by setting the tone of a more fluent speaker gets yourself in more demanding situation accordingly. This will put you in a more embarrassing condition in the end. Yeah, it's possible, but I think for most people, like I could go. I gave the example before about like being in a Korean store and I just like say hello, or I'm in like a French store and I'm like bonjour, and they're like, oh, and they'd like start speaking a lot, and I'm just like, oh, I don't I don't speak so much French. But you know, typically if you're in that situation where you know you would like either you're just saying a greeting for being polite, or you would be in like you actually are able to communicate because you need to express something. My point is, I mean, you don't. It's not like you have to like say something perfectly, and then everything else is going to be awful after that. I mean, usually this is for people who might make some mistakes, but it's much better to start the conversation helping that person feel maybe that you can speak better. It's really for the other person. It's not for you, because you want that person to kind of give you, we say, the benefit of the doubt. It means they will assume that your pronunciation or your vocabulary or whatever is a little bit better, and that way they will understand you better even if you make mistakes. So yes, like it is possible that like you could, you know, like something could happen, but I don't know, most of the time when I'm in a situation like that, like it's never been, you're not going to die or anything. So good thinking, but don't overthink it. Eileen says, I had Latin classes in college. It's an interesting language, but at the same time, it's very hard. I remember these words, magistra, amix, friends. Do you know any words in Portuguese? I don't think so, but I could probably figure some out, I guess, because it's related to English. But don't forget your delicious water, because you're teaching us above the hours. Or you could say like for many hours. Let's see. Yes, it's been 99 minutes, almost 100 minutes right now. All right. Yes, we're going to close it down very soon. Yes, you pronounced my name correctly. Thanks. Canero. Yes, because you taught it well, and so we understand the vocabulary. Yeah, so I mean, Latin is certainly helpful for understanding a lot of words, because many English words have Latin roots, and I'm guessing it would be the same in other like Latin origin languages as well. Like you would have, I don't know, Italian, French, Spanish. Yeah, so any words like that or languages like that would be similar. It's helpful to know those things. All right, it looks like we did get back to, let's see. Oh, Davey is there. I speak Portuguese. I am from Brazil. Let's see. Saudações para todos. So I know that's like something, maybe like greetings from everyone or something like that, if it works the same way in Spanish. Saudações. I don't know what that means though. It's time to drink water. Okay, like maybe people are talking to each other, but what does that mean? Greetings. Like it's similar to the English like salutations, I guess. Greetings and salutations. But it's interesting how that works. Have you ever tried to speak Hindi? No, I have not. But interesting, my daughters, they were watching some YouTube videos years ago of it was like like a Disney cartoon, but it was in Hindi. And they were watching, and they had watched it for maybe a week, and they started speaking some Hindi words. It's interesting. Greetings, everyone. That's right, teacher. Glad to hear it. All right. Well, anyway, I think that is it. I think we've gotten to everybody over here. But yes, thank you for joining me. This is, again, the last video of this year. I don't think I should be able to do any more. I'll be taking a break, rest my voice a little bit so I can come back strong for 2024. But we will be, as always, around. If you can send us an email at info@englishanyone.com, or if you'd like to start getting fluent before the new year, you got Frederick as well as Fluent for Life. that you can click on in the description below this video. Yes, have a happy holiday. Everyone enjoy your, whatever you celebrate, if anything. Enjoy the start to the new year, and I will see you guys then. All right, see you next year, like you said on December 31st. Yes, have a happy holiday. Happy everything. George, look at that right in at the end with the pink hand over there. George, you never say anything else. It's always hello and goodbye. I want to know more about George. Isaac says, just want to say thank you for all the resources you put out for us. Yeah, it's my pleasure. I know what it's like to struggle to communicate, and I know it's hard to find information because most of the information available is trying to help you learn English as a second language, which will keep you stuck. So remember, as I'm trying to help you learn, use these ideas and start. You can actually learn a lot all by yourself, and you don't need to spend a lot of time speaking. Spend more time if you have some vacation time during this holiday season. Get more input. Spend more time focusing on things. Learn more rather than trying to speak. And then the next time you do speak, you'll be much more prepared for that. All right, Eileen says, happy holidays. And Young says, Merry Christmas, a Happy New Year. Happy holidays, thank you. Yo toshio ne. Yoroshiku onegai shitai to omoimasu ne. And so soon we'll say, akemashite omedetou gozaimasu. Yes, learning English is easy. All right, nowadays focusing on American English. Happy holidays, thank you. All right, now before I get 1,000 comments about happy holidays, happy holidays to everyone. Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, whatever you guys celebrate. And I will see you next year. Bye-bye.